related to mechanical science domain, organized by the Automobile Department from KCG College of Technology during this lockdown period. So before starting the webinar, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Mr. Saurabh completed his bachelor degree in mechanical engineering from GHRCE Nagpur and masters in automobile engineering in VJTA Mumbai with outstanding percentage. He got 3 years of experience in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system requirement, simulation, and testing. He is expert in vehicle cool down and warm up 1D simulation on thermal system simulation softwares like AMSIM and CULI with vehicle level testing and validation. He got experience in vehicle integration and validation for Jeep hybrid vehicle development for 10 months. As far as achievements is concerned, he received individual spot award for his top performance in 1D cabin warm-up prediction using new proposed cabin recirculation strategy developed and is delivered on the same day. He published various papers in international journals. Now I will give the general instruction to all the participants. I request all the participants to mute your Zoom mic, turn off the video, and please post your queries in the chat section relevant to the topic. We'll provide the feedback link at the end of the webinar. Please give the feedback after the session to receive the e-certificate. So I repeat once again, only the participants will receive the certificate in 1 or 2 days after receiving the feedback. Participants are requested to attend the complete session. Thanks in advance for your cooperation. Now I invite Mr. Balsari to take over the session. Sir, please take over the session, sir.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for gracious welcome. So, hello to all participants. I hope you are able to hear me properly. So, today's topic mainly is automobile air conditioning. So, just let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, so today's topic is automotive air conditioning. Mostly we all have experienced AC in our household in vehicles. So today it will be like a deep dive and a technical overview of the automotive air conditioning system. And these are the contents for today. So first, we'll be going through the introduction, some HVAC basic concept, what are the components used and what are the differences between them, and the system behavior and troubleshooting. This will be more interesting. Just 1 second. Okay. So afterwards, I'll be taking the recent trends in automotive air conditioning, and afterwards we'll be taking the Q&A. So at any point of the time, if anyone has any questions, please feel free. Sir, how to, there are some, just excuse me for some minute.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's clear.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So first of the thing is why we need AC. To basically function of AC is to cool and dehumidify the air. So the 4 basic function of any air conditioning system is cooling, air circulation, air purification, and air dehumidification. So cooling and air circulation, everyone is required. The air purification and dehumidification aspect comes in the vehicle or air conditioning systems. Of course, in hospitals and all, air purification is required, but in vehicle air conditioning system, we'll be covering all 4 aspects of the air conditioner. Of course, the vehicle is also equipped with heater. So it is called automotive HVAC system. So in cold weather conditions, we also require the heating and defrosting function. Heating is to keep passengers comfortable, and defrosting is to remove the ice on the windshield. So in cold weather countries, mostly we have uh, in cold weather countries, mostly we have the thick layer of ice built up on the vehicles overnight due to snowfall and all. So defrosting function is also required. So back to air conditioning. So what are the different sources of heat in the vehicle? Of course, there is a sun load. It keeps on heating glasses, the sheet metal, and the overall cabin. The property of glass is once heat enters inside, it refracts the heat. So your cabin temperature keeps on increasing over the ambient temperature. So even if your ambient temperature is, let's say, across 35 or 40 degrees, it is high. There is highly chance that if you keep the all windows closed, your interior temperature can go up to 60 degrees. And once the car is on the move, the engine heat and uh, exhaust pipe can go up to temperatures like 800 to 1200 degrees Celsius due to exhaust gases. So this temperature also radiates radiation, and it also contributes for increasing the cabin temperature. So what your AC has to do is remove all the heat sources, remove all the heat entering in the cabin so that the passengers when seated in the vehicle, they should feel comfortable. So this is our air conditioning unit. So we all know the components, that compressor, condenser, the expansion valve, and evaporator. So at a compressor circulates the refrigerant and compresses the gas and increases its temperature. So in this phase, it is in the gaseous state and at hot temperature. The condenser fan blows the cold air over the condenser so that it is still at high pressure, but it liquefies the gas. Now we have is high pressure and liquid state refrigerant. Dryer ensures that only the liquid refrigerant passes to the expansion valve. What expansion valve does is it will regulate the flow of refrigerant as per the cooling requirement. So as soon as you start the vehicle, your cooling requirement is very high because your cabin temperature will be very high. It will be equal to or more than your ambient temperature. So initially, the maximum refrigerant flow will be allowed to go to the evaporator, and as soon as the requirement comes down, that expansion valve will reduce its flow. So once the refrigerant passes through the evaporator, it gains the heat from the cabin and it evaporates the refrigerant. So now in this phase, we have a low temperature but gaseous state refrigerant, which is again fed to the compressor, and this cycle repeats. So this is how our basic air conditioning system works. The things I have covered in short is the evaporator, blower, and a condenser fan. So as the session progresses, we'll have a deeper look at these components. So also our vehicle is equipped with the heating system. So as you can see, here is a thermostat. So thermostat receives hot coolant from the engine. So just let me try to zoom in. Just a second. Okay, no problem. So as you can see, the thermostat receives high temperature coolant from the engine, and as it is in a closed condition, it circulates only with this heater loop. In normal condition, once your coolant temperature reaches 90 degrees, this thermostat will open and the complete flow through radiator will occur. But when your ambient is cold, this thermostat will remain closed and your radiator will not have any flow. All the flow will go from engine directly to the heater, which is inside your cabin. So the blower blows fresh air through the heater core, and it transfers the heat to the vehicle cabin, so that the passengers remain comfortable, and it also does the defrosting function as and when required. It will blow the air to the windshield. So this also will have a detailed look. Okay, so now we are entering in the proper HVAC section, the types of ducts. So mostly we are aware of the panel ducts, which are in front of the cabin, in front of the front passengers on the dashboards. So those are called panel ducts, and their function is to blow the cold air directly to the face of the front passengers. Also, the rear ducts also nowadays we see in the many vehicles, and nowadays in the vehicle like Innova or some Mahindra vehicle XUV and all. So the third row of duct is also given. So for air conditioning, mostly the front panel, rear console, the second row duct is called the console duct, and third row duct, it will be called the headliner duct, as it is over the head. So as you can see in this picture, only one HVAC unit is shown as this vehicle is smaller. If we add a third row into this, we also have to include one more HVAC unit at back of the vehicle. So that HVAC unit will provide cold air to these ducts. Okay, just a second. Okay, so this is for air conditioning. For heating, we have three kind of duct: defrost duct, demist duct, and floor ducts. So as name suggests, floor ducts will blow the hot air on the foot of the refrigerant. So the front footwell below the dashboard, two ducts will be there, which will be blowing hot air on the feet of the front passengers. Similarly, two more ducts will be there, which will blow the hot air on the rear passengers. For the defrost duct, as you can see here, this is the defrost duct, and it will blow hot air to the windshield. So when the hot air comes in contact with the windshield, all ice will melt, and you will have a clear visible windshield. And similarly, demist duct as shown over here, this will blow hot air towards the side glass, so that uh, your side glasses will also be having a ice coverage. So this will blow the hot air on the your side window, so that your glass area, the rear view mirror glass area, will be melted, and you can see clearly which vehicle is behind you, and it will improve your visibility. So in short, for air conditioning, all three ducts will work uh, in a, I can say, at single point of time. All three will be operational to keep the cabin cool. But for heating, the defrost and demist will operate only when you do the setting for them, and floor duct will operate whenever you have some heating requirement. Okay. So till this point of time, does anyone have any questions? You can just type in the chat window so that I'll be able to see. Okay, no problem. We can continue. Okay, so now we are entering in some interesting thing. Just a second. Okay, so everyone has seen these knobs or these notations. Generally, what people will do, they will set the temperature, they will set the blower, and they will enjoy the AC cooling the passengers. So now we have to see what are these modes and what function they do. So first one is the panel mode. So this is the panel symbol. So what it will do is it will activate the panel ducts, which is on the dashboard. So it will blow the cold air directly on your face. as well as the rear duct if the vehicle is equipped with one. The second mode is the bi-level mode. So it will activate the floor ducts and the panel ducts simultaneously. It is used generally when you have a very hot cabin and your food also needs cooling. Of course, you can use this for heating as well. So the third mode is of course floor mode. So when you are heating the cabin, so this mode you will be using to blow the hot air. So now my question is why we cannot use this floor mode for cooling the cabin? Just to make the session little interactive, I'm keeping an eye on the chat window as well. So if you have any doubts or anything, you can just type in. So I'll be happy to answer some of the doubts. Okay. So, okay, one question is the demist is inside the car.
Saurabh sir,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. So shall we have
Okay.
the doubt clearing section at the end, or will you like to clarify it then and there?
Okay, no problem. So,
Okay.
okay, as HOD sir said, I'll have the Q&A session at end of the lecture only. Okay.
Okay.
So I will reserve this query till end of the lecture, and at end, if someone can answer, just let me know why the cooling is used for the panel and why heating is used for floor. So very simple principle is there. Just think about it during the session, and if you have an answer, tell me at the end. So again, if you have a defrosting requirement and you want cooling as well, so you will use this combination of modes. So these modes can differ from one manufacturer to manufacturer, uh, especially the combination mode. These three modes, panel, bi-level and floor, will be present in all vehicles. And of course, there is front and rear defrosting. So front will be done by the hot air and rear will be done by resistive heating. We'll have one electrical grid at back of the vehicle, and once you push the rear heating button, so the current will flow through that electrical grid on the rear glass area, and it will melt the ice. So now we will see how this what happens when we press these buttons, and what happens inside the vehicle. Okay. Just okay. So this is the air handling unit or HVAC unit which handles your airflow. So I will start from the blower motor. As you can see, this is outside air vent. So it will pull the air from outside. We call it as a fresh air. And this is the recirc air vent, and it will pull the air from the cabin. So if you see here, the recirc button is there. So when this button is pushed, your air inside the cabin only will recirculate, and you won't have any fresh air. But when you release this button, this recirculation button, so this motor, this is air inlet duct motor. So this will open this door for at this position so that the outside air will be blocked, and your blower will suck only the air from the cabin. So now you have your evaporator core. So refrigerant will be continuously flowing from this, and this is your heater. So heater also will be receiving continuously the coolant, hot coolant from the engine, irrespective of you activate it or not. So this is the temperature blend door. If it is closed in this position like this, so your heater core won't be receiving any airflow. So whatever air your blower is blowing, it will coming directly to the evaporator and it will be passing on. And if you have a heating requirement, this door will go to this position and your evaporator will be off. Your AC will not be running. So all the air will pass through the heater core and it will go forward. So that is a function of the temperature door. So first is the fresh or recirc door, second one is the blend door. One more function it will do is it will control your temperature. So here, once you set a temperature, let's say this is in Fahrenheit. So once you set to say 20 degrees or 16 degrees something, so at first this will be completely open position for the evaporator. So it will be blowing continuously the complete cold air. So whatever maximum capacity it has, it will try to reach your set temperature as soon as possible. But once your temperature reaches, this blend door will slightly open and some of the air will pass through the heater core also, so that the mixing will be done and outlet temperature will be same as what you set, let's say 20 or 24 degrees. Okay. So once you have a hot or cold air, now we have uh, the duct selector motor. So once you set this to floor mode, uh, this door will close to this position and all the airflow will go to your floor ducts. So all hot air will be coming on your feet. Similarly, if you are cooling, if you have set the AC on, the floor duct will be closed and the complete air will go to the panel duct. One more motor is there to control the defrost and demist function. As you can see, the defrost airflow and side window airflow. This is the demist duct. So if you have set up specifically defrost, your floor duct will not be receiving any airflow. So in the defrost mode, your floor duct will be closed and your panel duct will also closed. So all the hot air will go to defrost and demist. Okay. So right now, I think it's very clear. We have covered the 4 motor operated doors. The first one is the recirc and fresh air. Second one is the blend door to control the temperature. Third is floor or panel and defrost combined. And the fourth door is the panel or defrost. So by using the combination of these modes, you can set at what ducts you want the airflow. So as you can see, the bi-level defrost and floor mode. So now we have set the heater core, means in heating position your evaporator is cool and it is getting fresh air from the outside. So blower is blowing the air and it is heating through the heater core. So this is bi-level. So your defrost and side windows will also get airflow and your floor mode will also get airflow, but your panel vent is blocked. So the panel vents on the dashboard will not have any airflow. Second, bi-level heating, adjusting the temperature. So as you can see, we have this will be used when you have a clear windshield or user wants both continuous heating of the windshield as well as the footwell. So the blend door is adjusting the heater core temperature as per set by the user, and it is blowing air to both the floor and defrost and demist. Now, when we have a cooling requirement, this heater core will be in a closed position and your evaporator is now on. So mostly the air conditioner is used in the recirc mode. Okay, this is also one interesting question. So why the why the AC is used in always recirc mode and why the heater is always used in the fresh mode? As you can see in the previous windows, uh, just a second. Okay. Here in the heating mode, your fresh mode is always on, your recirc is always closed. But whenever we turn on the AC, your recirc mode is generally preferred. So if I'll request the answer at the end of the session. So if you have answer, just keep it yourself and tell me at the end of the session. So I'll be answering all the queries at the end. Okay, so in cooling, your complete airflow is going to the panel. And also when your set temperature is reached, this blend door will come in between so that you get your desired outlet temperature. Okay, so this is how the HVAC unit, air handling unit operates. So now we'll see the components of the HVAC system. We all know it is compressor, condenser, receiver, dryer, TXV, and evaporator. The first, second, and the fifth one everyone knows. So these third and fourth, receiver, dryer, and TXV, are the interesting ones. So the compressor, we have different type, reciprocating type, wobble plate, scroll type, and rotary vane type. So as you can see, this is the wobble type compressor. So here the belt will be attached. So this disc will be continuously rotating, and this can be in 4, 6, or even 8 piston configuration. So your plate will be rotating uh, in this rotational manner, which due to its shape, it will press the pistons up and down. So the compressing action will happen. And once it gets compressed, the high pressure and temperature refrigerant will be delivered to the condenser. Also, this can be driven by belt drive or an electric motor. So irrespective of your vehicle is a normal vehicle or a battery vehicle, it won't have any problem. Internals will be the same. The scroll type compressor, here I have shown the working. So at scroll is at the inlet position, your refrigerant will be sucked in, and slowly as the vane rotates, it will get trapped in the vane and it will get compressed. Once it reaches the center, it will be delivered, and again the cycle repeats. So the scroll type compressor is very less seen, or I would say the mostly used is the wobble plate type compressor, as it is simple in construction and also uh, life is longer. Okay, so now we see the condenser. So there are two types of condenser widely used. The earlier ones which were used were serpentine flow type. So what will happen? The refrigerant will enter at high pressure and temperature. It will get cooled down, as you can see, as it flows through the through the pipes. So this area will be at high temperature and this will be at low temperature. So it will have an unequal heating. But when you come to the parallel flow compressor, at one end it will enter, and through the pipes, as you can see, this is a 5 pass condenser. So it will have a more uniform cooling, as there is a high chance that the heat will be distributed highly in equal quantity across the serpent. So in liquid dryer, so that at the outlet you get completely liquid refrigerant, irrespective of your condenser is able to completely liquefy it or not. So that is a function of receiver dryer. It also acts as a particle filter, refrigerant storage container, and it separates the liquid refrigerant from the vapor. So in older vehicles, you can see this type of separate receiver dryer. But in modern vehicle, if you see any condenser, it will be integrated with the condenser itself, so that there is only one pipe directly going to the TXV. Okay. So now we have a completely liquefied refrigerant at high pressure, uh, which is traveling to the TXV. So TXV, a little bit I'll try to explain. This section which you see here, this is the sealed refrigerant tube. This is not attached anywhere. So this is F1. It is a sealed tube filled with refrigerant. So mostly this tube will be attached to your evaporator. So if your evaporator is initially means in the running condition, so okay, let me try to explain it this way. So if your vehicle is in off condition, so your evaporator will be in the ambient condition, so it will be hot. So what it will do is that uh, that heat will expand the refrigerant is sealed in this TXV tube. So that's this diaphragm will get depressed. So here, as you can see, there is a ball valve. So it will get depressed, and this is the TXV open condition, as this will allow the flow from high pressure to the low pressure side. So initially your TXV will be in open condition always. So once your vehicle starts cooling and it has reached some comfortable temperature, so this tube will sense that evaporator has reached some closer temperature, or let's say the freezing point. As if your evaporator goes below or comes near to the 0 degree Celsius, the ice particle or frosting will happen, and this is not good for your evaporator health. So that's why it is calibrated in such a way that it will close the TXV as soon as it reaches 4 degrees Celsius or so. So it will not allow your evaporator to deliver any temperature lesser than 4 degrees Celsius. So this is the TXV in closed position. So it will block the complete flow. So TXV is a very vast topic, how the TXVs are set. Here I would like to tell this F2. This is the pressure compensation tube. This is what we call for TXV setting. So as I told, the TXV should close at 4 degrees Celsius. So how do we set the TXV exactly at this position? So this is done by this pressure compensation tube. And we can adjust the pressure inside this refrigerant by adjusting this, so that it will close the TXV exactly at 4 degrees Celsius. Okay. So this is the TXV, and just a second. Okay, now the evaporator. Evaporator is also the serpentine flow type. It is used for smaller cooling requirements, and a plate and fin type. So this is a bit of complex structure. I'll try to explain it over here. So as you can see here, these are the complete plates arranged in a staggered manner. So here your refrigerant will enter at low pressure and liquid state from the TXV. So once it comes over here, here is one baffle. So again, it will go down and come in this direction. Again, it will shift to the adjacent tube, but again, there is a baffle. So it cannot go to this compartment. Again, it will travel back, changing its direction. It will come over here. Again, it will travel to the end, and finally, this last circulation will happen and it will come out. So what benefit this plate and fin time evaporator will do is, it will provide a large surface area for heat transfer, and it can transfer way more heat than the serpentine evaporator. So this is a bit complex in construction, so also it is a costly one. So that's why it is used in the major heat transfer application, and mostly in automotive, the plate and fin type will be used. The serpentine flow type will be used where the cooling requirement is less. Okay, so now we are heading to the system behavior and troubleshooting. So I'll be covering 3 topics in this: the charging the system with refrigerant, the AC performance check, and troubleshooting. So charging the system with refrigerant. So basically two methods are used in charging the system: charging by volume and charging by weight. Personally, I feel charging by weight is more accurate as compared to volume, as volume may change according to your ambient temperature. So density may vary and you may end up with inaccurate reading. So I would prefer this method, and these are the steps for charging the system with refrigerant. So the general procedure is you have to vacuum the system to check if system is airtight or not. So once you are maintaining the vacuum inside the system, it should not leak any ambient air inside. So it should maintain the vacuum up to 1 to 2 hours. So after that, you have to start the engine and turn on AC compressor. At this point of time, you won't have any refrigerant inside. So your AC compressor will not kick in, as it requires some AC pressure to start its operation. So various sensors are also included in this. And once you start adding the refrigerant, you have to check the weighing scale for quantity added. And once you have required quantity is added, you have to stop the refrigerant flow and disconnect the vehicle lines. So I have one short video I'll like to share. Okay. Just let me know if you are able to hear the audio.
No, sir.
You are not able to hear it. Okay, just let me try again. Share computer sound optimized for video clip.
Hey guys, Chris Fix here,
How
and today
about
I'm
now?
going to show you how to properly
Yes,
recharge
sir.
your
Yes, sir.
systems. Many people are
Okay.
afraid to do work on their AC system, but this video will take those fears away, and it'll show you how easy it really is to recharge your air conditioning system.
So as you can see here, this is the vacuum pump. These are the pressure gauges, and this is your typical engine bay. So I'll try to just uh, have the main content. So first you will need is the R134A or whatever refrigerant your vehicle is recommended with. So there will be one vehicle's sticker. So at every vehicle, some sticker will be have attached, so that uh, it will tell which refrigerant to use, what quantity, what is the minimum and maximum quantity you have to use, and that's it. So you have to find this sticker. So some vehicles in India, at least, we use the R134A, but in European countries and all, the R1234YF is used. So slowly we'll also change to this different refrigerant, but as of now, this is only used. So once you know which refrigerant you are having, you have to start following the procedure. So here, as you can see, the minimum requirement maximum requirement was 630 grams. So this guy in this video has bought 340 grams each, 2 cans. So now we have to start vacuuming the refrigerator. So I'll let the video play from this point of time. Okay.
For Christ's sake, why didn't you tell anyone about this before?
What would that get me?
It does not fit on it, so you don't have to worry about mixing those up. To connect these adapters, you just push down and slide it over and then let go. And we're going to connect our low pressure, which is this blue line, to our low pressure port right here. Make sure it's in there good. Get our high pressure line here, which is the red, and we're going to connect it right down here to our high pressure line. Good. Now back at our gauges, again, these are closed off. We're just going to come over here and we're going to open these up. Open the low pressure side. Good. And open the high pressure side. With the high and low pressure side opened up, we can come over here. You can see here at the low side it's at 0 psi, which is exactly what we want. And you look here at the high side, it's at 0 psi, which is exactly what we want. So there's no pressure in the system, obviously. We know that because we replaced the compressor. Now we can start pulling a vacuum. Alright, the last line we have to connect is this yellow line, which is going to go to our vacuum pump. And I'm just going to move this down because my vacuum pump's going to be on the ground. In your system, make sure you go to a garage and get the system professionally evacuated. Our high pressure line connected securely, that's opened up. And then now we have our yellow
your low pressure
vacuum
and high
line
pressure
connected.
lines are already connected to the vehicle HVAC system at low and high pressure ports. And now this vacuum pump will start creating a vacuum inside the system just to check if there are any leaks or not. So as you can see, the vacuum
Securely.
is building
Let's
up
go turn
in the
on the
low
vacuum.
pressure gauge.
So I'm just going to be focusing right here because this has the vacuum on the gauge. Even though this goes below 0, it doesn't have the actual readings. And you can see we're almost at 30 inches of mercury for vacuum, which is exactly where we want to be. So after letting this run for a few minutes, there's just about 30 inches of mercury of vacuum. I'm going to close these.
So at this point of time,
And I'm going to close our vacuum pump.
inside the system, it should maintain vacuum for at least 1 to 2 hours. After it has after you confirm that the vacuum stays inside the system, you have to run the vacuum pump for some more time so that there is no moisture inside the system, as the moisture can highly damage your internal components. So make sure that you vacuum your system at least for good 45 minutes. So once you do that, you have to start adding the refrigerant. So I'll start from that part. So at this point it is detached, and now this guy will be attaching the refrigerant.
I did the leak detection video, it's in there, we don't have to do that. So in this case, I don't have to add oil, it's already pre-oiled, and I don't have to add UV dye, I already have it in there. So now we're going to go connect our refrigerant to this line. So the first thing we'll do is connect our refrigerant can. Make sure it's a nice tight seal. Now we're going to connect our refrigerant can to our yellow line. Okay, good. So now we're going to screw down the adapter, which will pierce the can, and with this screwed down, this is in the closed position, so no refrigerant's going to come out. Also remember that the manifold gauges are in the closed position and holding vacuum. So now we're going to open up our can so we can purge the system. So with this can in the open position, there's some refrigerant in this line, but there's also air in this line, so let's purge it out. What you do to purge the line of air is you get a screwdriver, you go to this purge tip right here.
This is very important step, that it removes the air, whatever is the residual air inside the line was there. As this purging will remove the complete air. So now you have complete refrigerant.
Until the refrigerant comes out, and now we purge the system of
start
any
the
air. So let's go start the truck.
AC now.
Compressor will kick on when there's enough pressure, and that's what's going to draw in the rest of our refrigerant. Just so we can see the temperature, I'm going to put this thermometer right up in here. You can see right now it's almost 90 degrees. So with our AC on and our fan on, let's go add the refrigerant. Next, open up the valve on the low pressure side of the manifold gauge. Now refrigerant is flowing into the system. I'm going to put this down on a cool part of the engine compartment, but you don't want to put this down on anything hot because it could heat up the can and cause an explosion, which would not be good. Now we just wait for the compressor to kick on. Perfect. It just kicked on. And you can see the low pressure side drop down to about 10 psi, while the high pressure side is slowly building pressure at around 100 psi. This will increase as we add more refrigerant. If we check the compressor, you can see it's clicked on, which is good. Now we just wait for the compressor to suck out the refrigerant from the can. When you think the can is empty, turn it over and give it
another can. So here he has converted the units from grams to ounce. So you have to see how much residual refrigerant needs to be added.
ounces exactly. We want to add 10 more ounces to the system since each can is 12 ounces, and we already added one can. Go all in at once because it could turn to liquid and damage the compressor. So slowly add the refrigerant. After a little, we could open up the valve the rest of the way to get the can down to 10 ounces.
Okay, at this
All
point
right,
of
we're
time,
almost
the
at 10
charging is
ounces, and I'm going to
complete. Now
close
you
this
have to
valve up.
disconnect the
So you
circuit, and I think this will be good for your refrigerant system. So back to our PPT now. Okay, so the charging is done. So now just we saw how to charge the system. The next step is AC performance check and the troubleshooting. So generally in the AC, we have these problems like reduced airflow through vents, low insufficient cooling or no cooling at all. And if the cooling is reducing day by day. So general what I can say troubleshooting things are, if your airflow is reduced, you have to check the cabin air filter, blower motor, duct leakages. The duct may also crack, and the mode motor door operation, so that you can find the root cause of things. The thing is, in AC troubleshooting, whatever problem happens, you have to check the complete system. So if your cooling is low or insufficient, you have to check the condenser for debris, or if anything is blocking your condenser airflow, the refrigerant level, if it is leaking or not, and the pressure. If your compressor is building sufficient pressure, and if there is no cooling, again you have to check the complete components, that what is causing. You have to check the AC lines for vacuum, and if possible, you have to insert a UV dye to see if there are any leaks, and also if the compressor operation is enough uh, to compress the refrigerant, and if enough refrigerant is there. And if your cooling is reducing day by day, you have to check for rust in the system, as it can cause the micro level leaks. So we still have 10 more minutes, and I would like to show one more video to you. So just give me 1 minute. Okay.
On our AC switch.
So first thing is, put your blower on the high, AC in the recirc mode, open all the windows, and set your AC to max and turn the AC on. Also, set the airflow into panel mode, so that complete airflow will be coming to your face.
Okay, we know that the air is blowing out the right location. The next thing we want to do is also put a
This is the
thermometer.
thing. So if you are not having enough airflow, you have to check a clogged cabin air filter. So if it is clogged, it can cause a reduced airflow. So if it doesn't solve your problem, you have to go to next step.
In our vent, check and see what that's the case. This would be a good time to go and look at your. Okay, right now, if the air was not blowing out the right location, you might have a problem with the mode door. Or if it wasn't blowing at all, you might have a problem with the blower motor. And if that's the case, this would be a good time to go and look at your information. Or you can log on to alldatadiy.com for the information on your specific vehicle. Well, everything looks fine here. We've got a problem underneath the hood.
So here, again, you have to check for
We already know that the
condenser
compressor
or
clutch
worn
works,
AC
so we saw
clutch.
ours looks good. Something else to keep in mind is also check the wiring harness. Check all the connectors, make sure they're plugged in properly, make sure the wiring harness hasn't been chafed against anything, and everything looks
So
fine
if everything
here.
looks fine, you
have a
have to
belt.
come to the pressure gauges again. So connect your pressure gauges to high and low level port. In this vehicle, the ports are adjusted, and in the previous vehicle, ports are different. So you have to see your user manual to see what are the correct location. So here are some interesting results.
Okay, that's what I thought. I can tell by looking at the gauge readings, we're almost
So
not quite 80
if you're
psi
at
on both
static
gauges.
condition, if your vehicle is not running, both the gauges will show the same pressure, but it is not the exact indicator of your AC system health. So you have to turn on the engine.
That's telling me that I do have a leak. I was expecting the gauge to be more about 120, 125 psi, so I am low on refrigerant. Let's take a look at some of the gauge readings and what they mean. The first reading you want to take with the gauge is with the engine off. This reading indicates whether the system is charged.
So
If the
this
reading is
is
0 on
the
both
empty
sides,
system.
you know the
So
system
all
is
refrigerant
completely
has
empty,
leaked.
and you likely have a serious leak. If you see this reading, you probably find obvious indications of a system leak. If the initial readings with the engine off appear considerably higher than 100 to 150 pounds, you could have an overcharged situation. A system with too much refrigerant will run at the wrong pressures and will not adequately cool. If the initial readings appear normal, the next step is to start the engine and turn the AC blower switch to max. Your gauge readings will vary slightly by application, but in general, they will be about 20 to 30 pounds on the low side and 200 pounds on the
So this is what should occur if your system is running normally. Also, the gauges for different refrigerant will be different. So same gauge for all refrigerants will not cannot be used.
high side. You can sell a service manual for specifics for your vehicle. Most vehicles today use a clutch cycling switch. When the clutch is disengaged, the low side reading will steadily rise and the high side reading will steadily fall. This is normal. Just make sure the clutch has been running for a few seconds before taking the reading. These gauge readings show the same pressure on both sides of the system while the engine is running and the AC is on max.
On the both sides, probably your TXV is having a problem. It is not able to create a pressure difference between the two sides. So your system is at fault.
This can indicate a fully open expansion valve or a faulty orifice tube, or more likely a faulty compressor or clutch. These gauge readings indicate an extremely low pressure on the low side and extremely high pressure on the high side. This could indicate a faulty compressor, but more likely it's a problem with the orifice tube or the expansion valve. We can tell by our gauge readings we know we're low on refrigerant. Next, we need to determine where that leak is. And now, one nice way to do that is we can put a UV leak detection dye right into the system.
Pressure method that if you create a vacuum and if it stays in the system, means your system is sealed. But if your system is already having refrigerant, you have to add this UV dye and check for the leaks. So here this guy is adding the UV dye.
Once the dye is in there, what we want to do is leave the AC on high, let it run for about 30 minutes, and then we can shut it off, take our UV light, and we've got some special UV glasses. We're going to go around all the hoses, all the connections, see if we can pinpoint where that leak is.
See, at
Okay,
this point,
tell you what, I've pinpointed the leak. I've got a leak right at the body of the
yellowish, which is showing. This is the leak at this system. So this is how with the UV dye you can diagnose where is the leak. So back to our presentation. Okay. So that is what our AC performance check and troubleshooting is. So I would like to cover some recent trends which we are observing in the automotive air conditioning. So if you have seen the recent Creta and Seltos, they come with the onboard air purifier with 2.5 filter. It also shows your air quality index. As we know, in cities like Delhi, Haryana, Gurugram, the air quality is very poor. So the owners are now expecting the vehicles to be kitted with the onboard air purifier. And the next development in this system is the in-car sanitization system, which is N95 certified. In this Corona situations, just a second. Okay. So in-car sanitization system are also used. So in this, what is happening? Whatever air is coming inside, all the viruses, microbes, bacteria, mold, everything harmful microorganism are killed before the air is supplied to the cabin. So this is how the in-car sanitization systems work. So these are the two recent trends. And also I'd like to take some myth busters. So I came to know that some people think like while sleeping, people while keeping the AC on are I'm sorry, who is drawing all these things?
Hello, sir.
Uh, Sir, some drawings are coming. Can you please take
Yeah,
care?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. At the top right corner, we have three icon. Then disable the pin icon.
Okay.
We can avoid this one, sir, because you are only sharing the screen.
Disable. Okay, 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 okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay. So these are the some of the myths buster. I came to know some people think that the ACs are harmful for your health. So there are some incidences of people sleeping in the vehicle when they were parked in closed garages. They are found dead. So I would like to confirm that it is a myth that it is because of the AC gas. So when your vehicle is parked in the closed garages, the carbon monoxide contamination happens inside, which is the colorless and odorless gas, and it can cause unconsciousness and death also. So is the AC gas is harmless? Of course not. If AC leakage happens, it mostly will leak at slow rates and from high pressure side, unless you puncture the tube from your end only. And that's why some safety should be taken when you are working with HVAC system, as it can cause frostbite at least, and it may cause breathing problem and CNS depression, that is central nervous system. So I think with that we are end of this session now. uh, if anyone has any questions, initially I had already asked two questions, so if you have answer for that, I would like to hear, and if you have any separate questions, I would like to answer those as well.
Sir, there are few questions.
Okay.
Hello. Sir, are you
Yes,
able
sir.
to hear, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, I'm able to hear.
Dr. Purushothaman had asked two questions. The first one is what type of compressor used in automobile normally, and what is the capacity used in the car?
Okay. So for that, mostly this wobble plate type compressor is used in. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So mostly in automobiles, wobble type compressor will be used, as this is easy to manufacture and it is cost effective as well. If you go to scroll type or rotary vane type, these are very precise compressors and are also highly expensive. So uh, for the type of compressor, I would say wobble plate type, and the capacity, it will range from vehicle to vehicle. Some vehicle will have let's say 80 cc compressor as well, and some big vehicles can have 200 220 cc compressor as well. So it all depends on what kind of system you want to build. Even in electric vehicles, you have some 20 cc 25 cc compressor, but rotating at very high speed, let's say 8,000 10,000 rpm. But normally your compressor speed will be range from, in a normal vehicle, if you have some 180 cc compressor, it will hardly go till 4,000 5,000 rpm, as your volume is very high. But if your volume is less in electric vehicles and all, you will have a very high rotating electric motor, and that's why you have a lesser volume. So I hope that answers the question.
Sir, one more question. What will be the once again? What will be COP? Let us move to the next question, sir.
Okay.
Participant called Danuj has asked the question that the mist is inside the car. How it will be clear the ice in the side mirror? So the mist is
Okay.
inside the car.
So
How will it clear the ice inside the side mirror?
okay. So I think it is regarding this picture. So this is inside your vehicle. The question is correct. So it will be blowing air to this side glass from the inside. So the heat transfer will occur from this hot air to the side glass. So this surface will completely get heated up. And precisely at this point where the driver head is located, it will see the rear view mirror at this angle only. So once your glass is heated, ice will start melting. So at start only it won't happen. It will take at least 3 to 5 minutes to melt the ice. So that point of time you have to keep the engine idling, and you have to wait for ice to melt. If it is very high ice thick layer, but if your ice layer is very thin, it can clear the glasses within 2 minutes also.
Sir, next question is,
So
hello.
yeah, yes sir.
What will be the COP for the automobile AC system?
Okay, so theoretically when we calculate the COP in thermodynamics or in RAC theory books, mostly your COP will be coming around 2.5 to even 3.5 to 4 also in some cases. But most likely in automotive air conditioners, your COP will range based on your condenser air in temperature. I would like to explain in this. See, in the idling condition, when your vehicle is stationary, your condenser will receive it will get hot and it will receive very less air as your vehicle is at standstill. So at this point of time, your heat transfer will be very less, whereas your work done will be very high. So at this condition, your COP will be very less. But if you are cruising at, let's say, 80 kmph, 60 kmph, where your condenser is receiving lot of airflow and your heat transfer is very good, at that point of time, even if your compressor work is constant, your heat transfer is increasing. So your evaporator will be able to suck in lot more heat from the cabin. So at that point of time, your COP will increase. Typically, if I have to give a value, it will range from 1.8 to 2.7. It won't go up to 3 and all. But we have seen some vehicle delivering COP up to 2.4, 2.5. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, sir. Sir, Mr. Nitin has raised the question. Sir, can you give an insight on OBD for air conditioner in vehicles? Can you give us an insight on OBD for air conditioner vehicles?
Okay, I think he's asking about onboard diagnostic port and how we can control the HVAC ECU with that. So if that is the question, for consumer, what I can say, for consumer OBD diagnostics, it is HVAC ECU is mostly locked. So you need a special OEM software to control the HVAC functions like this. Once you have access to the HVAC ECU through the OEM software, you can control these doors individually. You can control the blower motor, even HVAC, your compressor clutch and everything. So you can tune in the the HVAC performance as per your requirement. So if your heater is not cooling, you can even increase your idle RPM of the vehicle so that your heater will receiving more hot coolant. But for consumers, I think that is not possible. You need the OEM software through the OBD port to access that. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, as a participant has asked that during the COVID-19, government has said that do not use AC. Any alternative solution for this?
Okay, so that's why this recent trend in automotive is flowing like that. So you know, Ola, Uber, nothing is operating in the air conditioning. So this type of car sanitization system is required. As you know, the AC is always in the recirc mode. Let me try to maximize this. So as here you can see, without this UV light, you cannot kill the viruses which are circulating. If you are sitting in, let's say Ola, Uber, or even in personal vehicle, and one of you is infected, if he coughs or sneezes, those particles will be continuously circulating inside the vehicle. So even this system needs calibration, as it needs to suck the air from all the directions to completely sanitize the air inside. So this in-car sanitization systems are what we are having some hope that it is having a UV light and it can kill all the viruses floating inside the car. So as of now, since the system is not in place, uh, in Corona times, it is highly risky that if you are traveling in a vehicle with AC on, so better even if you are traveling, keep the windows down and do not turn on the AC. Or even if extreme necessary is there, keep the in mode. So that would be my question, so that the air doesn't get circulated easily. So if we see over here, even if your AC is in recirc mode, this contamination risk will be there. But still, if the situation is too hot and you need some cooling, so it is still risky, but you can keep the AC in the fresh mode and it can still cool the cabin, and rest of the air will be blown out from the special pressure port is there. So if your AC is in fresh mode, it will increase the in-car pressure. So once pressure reaches some value, your at the back of the vehicle, one port will be there which gets open. It is pressure sensitive port, and it will start blowing the cabin air to outside ambient. So that's how you can reduce the risk. Even in the railways which are running right now, air conditioned railways are running. So there also they are keeping the AC in the fresh mode, so that the risk of contamination at least will be reduced. It will be very difficult to travel in the closed third AC or second AC coaches without cooling. So I hope that answers the question.
Sir,
Yeah.
Hello.
sir, can I post a question? This is Nitin.
Yes, sir. Varala.
Sir, Saurabh, sir, I have a small doubt.
Okay.
Sir, the compressor is driven by the crank of the engine, right, sir? By a belt drive.
Yeah, correct.
So why can't, or my question is, why didn't the automobile manufacturers think in a way that it can be driven by a chain drive or a gear drive? Because if you use a gear drive, you can even step up the speed of the compressor if needed, right? So just a
Yeah.
simple doubt.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all, sir. And
Okay,
one
no
more thing is,
problem.
there is one more myth which we have seen it on YouTube and on the TV also, that don't
Okay.
light a matchstick or a lighter inside the car when the AC is on. It might blow up, they say. So any idea about that, if possible?
Okay, so first question is why the AC compressor cannot be driven with chain or gear drive.
Yeah.
And second question is that you do not blow any fire or anything inside the
Even a
car.
matchstick,
Okay.
they generally say don't light a matchstick inside the car when the AC is on.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I've read
I would
that in
like to answer
couple
your
of
both of the
articles.
questions.
Yes, sir, please. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll mute myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, okay. So first thing is your compressor is on the feed drive. Feed means the accessory drive driven by the crankshaft. So not only your compressor, your water pump, your alternator, and whatever auxiliary systems are there, those are mounted on the auxiliary belt drive. If we use a chain drive, as you know, the IC engine is very prone to the shocks at the starting and stopping, plus accelerating. It can have a shock wave even in the four-cylinder engine as well. Three-cylinder engine are already more advanced. So if you keep on giving shocks to these reciprocating components, their life will go for a toss. So your gear drive or chain drive both are not feasible even if you manage to get the setup done in on the engine. Plus when you mount the compressor and everything, when you use the rubberized belt drive, so even if there are some shocks and all, so the belt drive will be able to absorb some of them. So there is a maximum chance that the shocks will not reach to the individual component. So it will increase your component life. So that is why, that is the answer to your first question. And the second question is, why not light what I can say, the matchstick or anything in the uh, vehicle cabin. So as you can see while charging, let me try to get any images there. Okay, so while charging, in the video you can see that guy was very careful not to keep the refrigerant can on any hot surfaces, at it might cause an explosion. So there are chances that some refrigerant or even this R134A which we use in our systems are highly explosive if they
Okay.
come across any heat sensitive element or something. So if your system has any leak and all, and somehow it is routing through the duct, or even if it is outside and your AC is in fresh mode and that refrigerant is coming inside, first is the fire hazard risk, and second thing is if you inhale that, so your health will go for toss. So
Okay.
that is the most logical explanation I can think of as of now.
Okay.
But
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yeah, okay.
Sir, this will be the last question. How
Okay.
frequently HVAC system could be checked for maintenance during frequent hot summer long drives? What's the duration for a?
Sorry, sir.
How
Can you check?
frequently, sir? How frequently HVAC system could be checked for
Hmm?
maintenance during this hot summer when the vehicle is going for long drive? What's the
Okay.
duration for
So,
maintenance?
okay. So maintenance duration can be point of means some manufacturer can recommend pre summer checking, but as far as the duration, I would say that before summer, when your AC is going to run at its maximum capacity, so before summer itself, try to get the annual maintenance done for the vehicle. So if there is any debris or some dirt or some mold formation or something is there, that can be rectified before summer only. During the summer, as you can see, your let me get that image. So during your summer, your ambient temperature will go very high. So your condenser temperature may reach up to 100 degrees Celsius also, 90 degrees, 100 degrees. So at that point of time, your complete system will operate at maximum pressure. I would recommend that before summer itself, you get the maintenance, all leaks, everything, gas recharge if required, everything to be done before summer only. During summer, if you have any problem, yeah, but at least once a year or once in a 6 months, you should get your AC system checked.
Okay, sir. So good afternoon
So
once again to all. First, I apologize for not providing the opportunity for all the participants. Since the number of participants is restricted to only 100, we are not able to give the room to all the participants. But we have intimated the participants to log in before 11 itself. Next time, this kind of problem will not happen. Now all the registered participants can able to visualize can able to see the feedback link in the chat section. So kindly provide the feedback once you receive. Please don't share the feedback. We will not provide the e-certificate at once. After verification only, we will be providing the certificate. So you'll be receiving the certificate in 1 or 2 days. I thank all the participants. Now I request Mr. Madhavan to propose the vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So very good afternoon to everyone, and it's my pleasure to give a vote of thanks. First, on behalf of Automobile Department, thanks to our management giving their permission to conduct today's webinar, and my respected thanks to principal. Dr. T. Motilal, Professor and Head of the Department, giving their continuous support to conduct this webinar. On behalf of today participants and KCG College of Technology, a very much thanks to today Honorable Resource Person, Mr. Saurabh Belsari, Senior Engineer, HVAC System and Simulation, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. Sir, we are very much happy and learning a lot, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Participants, we hope you enjoyed today's session. We assured it should be continued in our auto webinar series. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madhavan.